And talking about the possibility of such sacrifice in the service, Marine Corporal Coffer said to a friend, "We're talking about Marines, not the Boy Scouts. We all joined the service knowing full well what might be expected of us." And he signed off with the Marine motto, Semper Fi, which means always faithful. Some people might hear that kind of a statement and think it's strange or even suicidal to be so willing to offer that. But I don't think that it points to a greater understanding of sacrifice than most people have. As a Christian, what I've come to understand about sacrifice is what I think the men and women who've given their lives to this great nation have understood from the get-go. And that's this very strange paradox that what looks like defeat to the rest of the world is actually the very way that victory is won, and that the world is changed. Let me illustrate what I mean. That monk I mentioned earlier, Telemachus, well, after he realized that he was serving God better by going into the city and serving his fellow man, he headed for Rome. And at that time, Rome was officially Christian because the emperor converted. But there was one pagan practice that still lingered in Christian Rome, and that was the gladiator games. While Christians were not thrown to the lions like before, prisoners of war were still cast into the arena and made to fight and kill each other. And spectators would just roar with bloodlust as these gladiators bowed. Telemachus, he arrived then in the city on the day of these games. And following the noise, he made his way to the arena where there were 80,000 people gathering to celebrate this. And the fights began, and he stood there just horrified. Men for whom Christ had died were about to kill each other to amuse this crowd. So he jumped into the arena and stood between the two gladiators, imploring them to stop and trying to reason with the audience. The crowd was furious at the delay of their entertainment, and after several shouts and threats, they ended up stoning the monk to death. The rest of the contests after that were canceled for that day. But 3 days later, the Roman emperor ended the gladiator contest forever. The death of Telemachus might look like total defeat, but he was successful in ending the bloody pagan tradition and saving untold lives. Similarly, it is directly through the blood of the men and women who fought for this nation that we have the freedoms, the prosperity, the victories over oppression that we continue to enjoy right today. Our fallen soldiers are not victims, but they are men and women of love who've accomplished more than any other nation on this globe. Their example of love and service is one that I think every person should look to. Because ultimately, it's an amazing reflection of the great example of our Lord, who I see as the ultimate soldier. Just like our fighting men and women, God heard the cries of a people in need and responded. He recognized that everything is not right in the world, and similarly that the suffering that you and I know, that we know all too well because of sin, and because of death, and sting, and all of us, isn't good. And rather than putting up with that, God challenged it head on and did something about it. Just like our soldiers. He took himself into battle for our sakes, coming down from the throne of heaven into our very existence as Jesus Christ, where he knew weakness, hunger, pain, even death. Leaving, like the ultimate brother in arms, therefore, one of us, he put himself in the line of fire and received the full force of sin's judgment in his body on the cross, leaving none of his brothers behind, so that now we are out of the enemy's hands for good, forgiven and freed. That kind of love, the kind we see in our soldiers, is something that we should celebrate every single day. Today we're going to see crosses marking the graves of our fallen soldiers. I can't think of a better way to mark and honor the life of a soldier than that. Love in sacrifice. Victory in love. It's awesome. May we remember and lift up our fighting men and women today to the God who has given us such an example of love. Greater love has no than that. Thank you, Reverend.